Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Good to see you. I guess I've learned I have to flip through because otherwise I can't see everyone. Greg, it looks like you might be back. Greg was up north, hopefully seeing a great grandbaby. I think that's very exciting. So wonderful to see you all. So here we are. We're going to be continuing on these Tuesdays with the Lojong slogans and with the Tonglen practice, which is the primary practice invited on the Bodhisattva path. Why? Remember we said Tonglen, just for a moment, a brief review, is Tong is sending, letting go, releasing, offering, sending out. Len is taking in, absorbing, willingly bearing, ideas like that. Tonglen then becomes the practice of sending and taking on the medium of the breath. Sending and taking on the medium of the breath. And we're going to be continuing that practice today. We did it last night as well. For those of you who were able to join us for Monday evening sitting, we did it there as well. We're going to be continuing with that practice because what I'm hearing, and I know it's true for me as well, it takes a while to get into the habit of using everything on the path as the truth of the Dharma. Everything on the path becomes usable towards the truth of the freedom from suffering. And so when it's our perception of bad news, we take it in, breathe it in, transforming it by our very willingness, by our very exchanging of ourselves with others, recognizing that there really is no solid me, there really is no solid you. So that exchange becomes very easy. It is not sacrificial. I don't want you to think of it that way. It is not me, this solid entity self. There's no such thing. By the way, there's our slogan for today, which is regard all dharmas as dreams. And what it says is the dream of yourself, the dream of who you actually thought you were, is actually completely a fantasy. It's completely made up. It's a dream. There's nothing substantial, nothing solid, nothing permanent that you could find, locate, point to, including qualities of mind, which is the second slogan we'll look at too. It's just a backup to that first. All dharmas are dreams. The second one says, look for the mind, see where you find it. See where is its beginning. See where is its end. See what color it is. See what shape it is. See what size it is. See who's got it and who doesn't got it. You can't find it anywhere. And we used just a couple weeks ago some of the early teachings that said things like no beginning, no middle, no end, as it relates to the quality of the mind. You can't find its beginning source. You can't find its end source. The best you can do is rest in the open space of the compassionate heart as a way of most closely knowing that nature of awakened heart mind, right? And I love that too. I found two quotes that had represented, I thought, this a little bit. In fact, in the first poem here, I hope you can all see it. Dennis, yeah, okay, thank you. In the first one, it's, I think, how we start out. We start out, I think, a lot as do-gooders. I want to do good. The I is still very active in that good. I want to do good. I want to see good things happen. I want life to be um, meaningful. I want to be a contribution. But the I is still pretty active at the beginning of that for most of us. And so I thought this statement really beautifully takes us beyond this idea of the self, just as the Bodhisattva path does. So I'm going to ask somebody to read that one, so take a look at it. And then Gandhi, another one, who also tries to get us out of this solidness. He says, look, your job, my job, all of our jobs in this world is exactly the same. We're all here to do our best, and we don't always get to see the fruit of that. So we stop looking for results. We stop looking for the evidence, just like we stop looking for where's the mind? Is it here? Is it there? Have I got it now? Am I enlightened now? Am I good enough now? You know, we do all these measurings. Really, Gandhi says, forget it. You may not even see the evidence for this propagation of good. We do it anyway. And he doesn't really have, you notice, too much about the I in it. Although he does use the pronoun you, that's not what he means. He says the right thing, ultimately, we commit ourselves. And from that, we trust, we have faith, we hold a certain kind of confidence that what needs to happen will happen, as my teacher often said. You simply do what needs to be done so that the thing that needs to happen can happen. And you don't take more ownership of that than that you are a part of this infinite, vast, interdependent world. And Gandhi is reminding us, you may never get to see the fruit of the goodness. It doesn't mean it's not good. And if you do nothing, you guarantee that result. You guarantee that no good can be born, that no good can result, that no good will arise, at least by the drop in the ocean that you are. So do I have anybody who'd like to read these two, and then we'll do a little sitting, and then we'll talk a little more about the slogans. Dennis, you want to read the top one?
Okay. Morning, everyone. I slept and dreamt that life was joy. I awoke and saw that life was service. I acted, and behold, service was joy.
Yes, it's talking about that full circle beautifully, isn't it? The truth that there is no me in it. I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to look for the evidence. It gets simpler, doesn't it? And that the truth of joy, the truth of our contentedness, our happiness in this life is going to come from a very different source, says the teachings, very different source than where you think all the good's gonna come. I just picked the last of my tomatoes. I was ecstatic in the garden. I got a big basket to give away to people. I can't wait to share them. And what the joy is not only in the tomato, right? Where's my ecstatic joy is in the giving them away. I can't wait for people to come get these things. It doesn't have anything to do with me. I have very little to do with these tomatoes. I provide water, I put it in the ground. A very small role, but the tomato is pretty spectacular, right? So just know I'm going to put that basket outside on my table today, and anybody who would like some, they're just spectacular. There's all kinds of varieties. Please stop by and pick some up. We'll try to get a few bags or something out there. But if not, you please bring it. We want to share that. This is the truth of abundance, isn't it? It only expands. It only shares. It only offers. It has no capacity for contraction, does it? It's not even possible. In the goodness, as we rest in the fruit of our actions, that's it. It's already enough. Whatever happens, it's all fine, right? Whoever comes, it'll be wonderful. I hope you do. And so that's the joy of that is something that doesn't come and go, I think is the other teaching. It doesn't come and go. It abides, it nourishes, it holds in a way that just the deliciousness, for example, of the tomato itself does not. As delicious as the tomato is, part of its true gift is both in the giving and receiving, right, of it. It wouldn't matter then what it was, would it? If I said, come get kumquats, yay, come get fig, yippee, come get a piece of dirt. Okay, that's all good. We're sharing it all. And in that, the truth of the joy is known by us all. Can you feel how much bigger it gets right away, right? It's no longer my tomato in my yard, in my garden, in my little town of Encinitas, in my little safe place, right? It wouldn't matter how delicious the tomato, you'd go, I don't know. It's a little contracted. No, it's the opening, the offering, and the feeling for oneself and others in this same and equal way. So then there's the second quote by Gandhi. Would anybody like to read? I'm staring at Tanya here. So I don't know, Tanya, would you like to read that?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, here. It's the action, not the fruit of the action, that's important. You have to do the right thing. It may not be in your power, may not be in your time, that there'll be any fruit. But that doesn't mean you stop doing the right thing. You may never know what results come from your action, but if you do nothing, there will be no result.
Right, so no opening, no exchange, no, right, in the medium of the breath. It says you may never see the impact of this. You might take in that person suffering completely. You may be willing, you may have 25, 50 breaths with that person for whatever the reason. You may never see one moment of evidence that that's had an impact. I want to assure you completely that it does. I want to assure you completely that it does. Though that person may not look your way, they may not smile, they may not bow, they may not acknowledge that, it is known, and it's known at a very deep, deep level. And that's why it says, regard all dharmas as dreams. You can't see the whole thing in its play, can you? You can't know it all. You only know this, Gandhi says, the offer, the opening, the compassion, the willingness, that you can know, and you rest there. Regard all the rest as a dream. Let's see if we can practice with that a little bit. I'm going to take this off for now. Happy to share at a later time. Thank you, Andy. So let's practice together. Finding a comfortable seat. I've got to take my glasses off. Put everything down. And what we're putting down more than a folder, more than a piece of paper is what? This false idea about oneself. Regard all dharmas as dreams. Let's not forget that who we think we are is one small shard of a truth. We're so much bigger, and that's why these slogans actually begin in ultimate bodhicitta. It says, remember the vastness. Remember, don't glue yourself to anything solid. And begin at the beginning was the first slogan of last week. And what did it mean? Really start with remembering a few key facts. We'll review them here in the the practice. We'll begin with the preliminaries, move into regarding all dharmas as dreams, and rest in the ultimate open, compassionate space of bodhicitta. Feeling this body as it's sitting here, we begin this way always. And how you make contact with the body is actually not too important to me. Some people start at the top of the head, some people start at the feet, some people just feel the whole envelope of skin. We can begin here by regarding all dharmas as dreams. This body is actually continually changing. It is not permanent. It is not you. And if you really can just turn the witness, the light of awareness towards the body, you see the body's kind of managing itself. It's breathing you. And so with each out breath, let's for a moment just start at the top of the head and actually invite this stability, steadiness, sewing of oneself together. Letting the light of awareness shine down right from the top of the head. Remember our guru yoga, where we invited in the awakened ones, the wise ones, the loving ones, like light entering in, the light of aliveness, the truth of this precious human life, letting it pour directly into us. The forehead, the face, the whole head. Breathing it in. We're breathing in to the throat, the neck, inviting the light in, the shoulders, the chest, the arms, down into the abdomen, the lower arms and hands, just continuing down into the belly, the back. With the out breath resting now down into the seat. Grounded, rooted by the legs. In contact with this earth. So that this whole body becomes that radiant light. Enlivened by the light of awareness, radiating in all directions. And we rest that guru, that embodiment of the wisest, most loving, most kind, however you imagine that. We rest that right in the heart space. And it's not separate from us. It is, in fact, our true nature. From beginningless time to now and beyond. There is no I, me, or mine in this. And as we breathe in the light of awareness, rest it within the open expanse beyond the body, in the body and beyond the body. We dedicate and aspire. We set the intention to offer this practice to all beings everywhere without exception. Omitting none. That's that wide open space. Freeing us all. We trust the goodness. Though we may never see it, we trust it completely. And we're staying in the medium of the breath, not managing, not manipulating. Knowing the breath. And remember, we're trying to keep a light touch. This is not a practice of shutting anything out. But we do want a stable, constant quality of awareness. We don't rush the breath. We don't try to get somewhere else. We don't even try to stabilize the mind. We simply rest in the direct experience of the breath and let everything else take care of itself. We can smile the smile of compassion, even here. We can see the nature of the habit mind, going this way and that. And we smile, committing ourselves each breath to knowing the breath as completely as we can, whatever else is going on. We can begin at the beginning with the preliminaries, remembering the groundwork that holds us in this practice. The first is remembering the truth of this precious human life. Accorded to few, we simply breathe that truth. We're not trying to understand it. We're not analyzing. It's not theoretical. You're seeing if you can make contact, real life, enlivened, embodied contact with that truth. Drinking it into each cell, each pore, so that it can be known beyond the mind, beyond the thinking mind. Can we feel the preciousness, even if all our tomatoes didn't come in? Even if this thing isn't exactly going the way I thought? And the second preliminary is that we remember that all things, including this body, this self, are impermanent, ever changing. And so rather than resist or struggle, we open and have compassion for the truth of what? Aging, illness, and death that comes with this precious human life. We acknowledge the truth of impermanence. Making everything precious. There is no object upon which to place the mind or the heart. There is nothing to grab onto, to find ground in. So we rest back as a result into the wide open groundless space. And then we see that all arising objects have their form and move back to formlessness. Have their impact, however, and this is called the law of cause and effect, or karma. That in this relative world, things will appear and things will disappear, but not quite that simply. That there will be suffering and the cause of suffering attached to that clinging, to that grabbing, to that holding. And this law of karma says, watch that it is true. Everything we grab for, everything we want to keep, all the things we want to secure will contribute to the cause of suffering. And will have consequences. This isn't to become judgmental, or it's to just see the way things are as they are. And so with each out breath, we rest back in the open space. And the fourth immutable law says, so you will see the cause of suffering and the way to its end. You will see the nature of samsara, how we keep getting caught in the grip. And you will also see the way to its end. And we train thus, riding the medium of the breath, breathing in, knowing that you're breathing in, and breathing out, opening. First, practice the preliminaries. This is the 4 base preliminaries. It says, with this, we can go forward. With this, we will see clearly enough to then move into the second slogan. And that is, regard all dharmas, all those appearances, all those things that look like they're coming and going as dreams. Recognize that you're not seeing the whole picture here. And so we hear sounds, we perceive thoughts, we sense and feel the body and sensations. But see if you notice that there is no solid, stable, or permanent object. Whether it's a pleasant experience or an unpleasant experience or a neutral object, they all simply appear and present and change and disappear. And if we can regard all dharmas, all objects, as dreams, we will not hesitate then to act. We will not become self-cherishing, self-referencing, self-occupied. We will simply do what needs to be done, understanding that none of this is fixed. We're willing to risk what we know we do not own and cannot keep. And since these objects aren't permanent or fixed, and neither is the self perceiving them, we can begin to use these objects in a skillful way, in a way that benefits not only ourselves but others. And so we can begin to notice the pleasantness of an object. We can breathe it in. Offering nourishment to ourselves. And on the out breath, we can send it out. We don't keep it, it's not ours. And so see if you can find a particular piece of good news, good medicine, pleasantness. It's very quiet here this morning. I can only hear one crow, and that feels pretty delightful. I could take in all that stillness, all that silence, all that space. I can feel its effects and its benefits. It's like a little test run. And then if it's of benefit, I can send it out completely. May all beings have ease, have joy, have stillness. Riding the medium of the breath. Taking and sending. May all beings have this benefit. And whether you know it or not, even as we are taking in the positive and offering it out to others, we are beginning to loosen our grip on our solid self, our very willingness to offer what is pleasant or good to others begins to untie the knot of the contracted, fearful, egoic mind. And so you could even remember a moment where you had something delicious. You had something accomplished, beautiful, something you loved, and you freely gave it away. No demand, with no morality. It's not like that's what you're supposed to do. You're a good person if you give everything away. This isn't any of that. It's simply to feel the benefits, the joy. Of that uncontracted, unbound, unknotted self. And so with each breath, continue to take in whatever good we can experience or recollect. They both work. Let it touch into your own heart mind, feeling its benefits. And then completely, freely, fearlessly send it out in that radiant out breath. The breath that moves in all directions. We're breathing into the Bodhisattva heart, the heart that is already moved beyond moments of difficulty or challenge, moments of fear, moments of self-cherishing. It's already expanded well beyond the physical heart, well beyond this me-making body, mind. We send it out beyond this body, beyond this mind, out into that open, infinite space. Offering it as specifically as we can if we like to begin that way. Who could use this stillness, this ease? As someone comes to mind, we can picture them, invite them into the heart space, and send them these blessings directly. You can move from those you know to those maybe you don't know as well, maybe to those you don't know at all. This can progress in any stepwise way that is workable for you and continues to expand the awakened heart mind. This is the training. And so it's a little more artificed, a little more forced, because we're just trying to see if we can't find our way with that exchange, taking in the good, sending it out. We're loosening the grip. Recollecting the truth of this precious human life, the truth of impermanence, the truth of our karma and its benefits and consequences, and the truth of suffering. We will, when we get caught in the grip, when we get caught by the objects, there will be fear and suffering. And so we train, giving it away. And with the awakened, wise, and loving ones in our own heart, well, remember we have the support of all that has come before, all that is here now, all that will be. There's no me alone in this. We have the Sangha here. And because we train with all objects, and we see all dharmas as dreams, we can also work with what is difficult. Because remember, not permanent, not fixed, not solid, not mine either. And so we could make contact with the moment of difficulty in the last day or so. Don't go back too far. Something that's still here in the body, in the mind, in the heart memory. It can be recognizing a moment of suffering. Could have been a moment of judgment or aggression, misunderstanding or confusion. A moment that we solidified in some way. Feeling lonely and imagining we'll be lonely forever. Feeling pain and imagining that pain is permanent. And as we recollect this moment of difficulty, mine was simply seeing someone, witnessing someone in some physical discomfort, and my really feeling open-hearted about that and wanting their happiness, wanting their relief. And so I'm going to breathe in that suffering. I'm picturing that person and picturing their grimace, their flinching, their contracting, and breathing that in. And sometimes, in addition, we can visualize this suffering as becoming dark, black, thick, hot smoke, and being willing to take it in, not just through the nostrils, be careful. It's really taking it in with the whole body, heart, mind, being. We're transmuting and transforming it with the whole being. And I'm recollecting that wish, may this loved one be free from difficulty, free from suffering. And on the out breath, we have transformed that suffering into golden, white, glowing light, good medicine, healing energies, strength, whatever's needed. And we send it out. We can be as specific at the beginning as we wish. I'm sending it directly to this loved one, keeping them in heart mind. You may actually feel a physical sensation, a tightness and achiness. For some people, a quality of contraction. And this is the beginning of breaking down our own egoic sense. That in some way we imagined we were actually ever separate from that suffering. It was never true. And though we may not be experiencing it in exactly the same way as the named or known other, the truth is, this is a part of the human experience. Whatever it is you are taking in is already true. It is also already not permanent. It also is already true that it has consequence, and how we relate to that will determine our continuing suffering or the end of suffering. So we try to lighten up, get more permeable, not so clingy, graspy, and solid. And this beautiful Tonglen practice helps us immensely. Because the more you solidify, the more you choke. It is not the object that is the cause of your suffering. It is your contraction, your shutting down, your avoidance, your refusal, and your resistance. And so we do it as often as we need to see that truth. We keep breathing it in, holding the truth of suffering, and we send out relief by that very holding, by that very willingness, that showing up. In that moment, we become the ocean, not the drop. So let's work with the difficulty for a few moments. Remember, regard all dharmas as dreams. Regard the object. Right? 3 objects, 3 poisons, 3 seeds of virtue. It's another slogan. It says we can take in everything and make use of it. Or we can make poison. And if you notice a contractedness, you might want to come back to yourself and simply open to that, remembering that others just like me can get fearful, confused, resistant, or rejecting. And we don't push that away either. We use that as well in which to open now. Be loving and compassionate right there, right to that very contraction, that very closing down. And feel for myself and all those, just like me, who know this too. And we continue to breathe, continue to take and send on the medium of the breath. You can expand and grow beyond the individual person if it works for you to include others who you know, in my example, might have been in some physical pain. You can then grow that beyond those others to those that are not known, who you know experience this, then ultimately to all beings. Just see what happens. If we wish to use the hands, we can place them on the heart. If we wish to stay in contact with that awakened bodhicitta, we can also use the hands, of course, to place it on a particular part of the body. Since I'm using this person who is in physical pain, maybe I would touch that area, offering relief as both a reminder and a focusing agent. It's all fine. With each breath, taking in, with each out-breath, sending out love, compassion, relief, good medicine. And maybe most importantly, yourself. You're sending whatever you have. And wishing relief with whatever you don't have. If you feel contracted, claustrophobic, you may need a moment of resting back in the wide open space of ultimate bodhicitta. Remembering, right, nothing stuck, nothing permanent, nothing fixed. Allowing that flow. And then for the last few moments, we let go of the medium of the breath and the taking and sending practice. We don't hold on to that. We rest back in ultimate bodhicitta. We rest in the vast, wide, open, luminous, radiant, empty heart mind that can hold everything. And we let it breathe itself. Get out of the way. And we let that gentle smile be both an inner and an outer smile. This very practice will generate merits, and we can even offer those. Any benefits from this practice today be sent out wherever needed. May I awaken each wound. And be of benefit. Until all beings awaken and are free. And may this practice today contribute. So I think it'd be good to start with any experiences or questions. This is, we're moving into at least the second or third week. We've at least done Tonglen several times, both on Saturdays and Tuesdays. I want to hear a little bit about where you're noticing the challenges or the benefits of the practice. So I'm just going to start there, and then we'll go look at slogans, the chapters 35 and 6 from Chogyam. But how has this practice been for you? Let's see, you can come on or you can chat. I'm looking here. How's it been? What are you noticing?
Hello, this is Victor.
Hi, good morning, Victor. Good to hear you.
Yeah, I don't have video. I don't have a good connection, but it helps me to feel connection. There's a lot going on with me right now. And then when there is a whirlpool of things, you I guess you lose connection.
Yes. You can get caught up in the things, right?
Yeah, you by yourself trying to figure out.
Yeah.
But that practice feels, it helps to see other people and everything and be in peace with everything.
Yes.
I think.
Yeah, that's right. It's good to remember that whatever the difficulty, right, it is not permanent. It is not fixed. It doesn't mean it's not difficult either, right? We don't lie about the truth of our experience either, but we remember, just as you're saying, Victor, we remember that there are others who know this too. There are others who have had a difficult time. There are others who have not known what to do. There are others who have felt alone in the efforts, right? Haven't we all? Couldn't you all nod? Yeah, I don't know anybody up here. I know all you folks. I don't know anybody who doesn't know this truth. Like I'm carrying this by myself. There's nobody else who gets this. It's bigger than me.
Yes.
I don't have what it takes, right? We've all been there. We've all been there. This is that fall into the limited perceived self, isn't it? And right now you may not have everything you think you need. But I will trust, as others will also, that what is needed can become available. So regarding all dharmas as dreams means not to see the suffering as permanent either. right? So one of our habits is to solidify two primary objects. Anybody know? One of them is suffering. The other one is the self that is suffering. And when we solidify either one of those, guess what happens? Suffering, right? Pain. So thank you so much, Victor. I'm thinking about you as I know others are, because we know this too. We know this too. And yes, I believe creating a little space, a little room in the face of these kinds of moments of contraction are important and necessary for us all. So I appreciate your sharing them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Somebody says up here, let me go back up because we've got some people chatting about this. Yes, forgiveness begins to come easier. It does, doesn't it? When we remember that we too suffer, we too contract, we too forget, we too get lost, we too want what we want. It's all true. And then compassion and forgiveness are actually part of the same portal. Really, we begin to understand others as ourselves well enough that we begin to become less judgmental, have more mercy and grace in response. That's right, says Adrian. Andy says, with this Tonglen practice, I notice more patience. Yeah, that's the more room and space, isn't it? As we rest back in space, the heart and mind take the shape of that which we rest upon. Isn't that a beautiful truth? The heart and mind take the shape of that which we rest upon. So if we're resting back in open space, guess what we have room for? Everything. And you know when you don't, because what, can't you feel it begin to get, right? It gets a hold of us. Yes, Andy, more patience, more generosity, more gratitude, more kindness, more forgiveness, said Adrian. Yes, it's all true. That's all right there in that wide open, spacious heart. Chris says, struggling with the notion that all dharmas are just dreams and therefore not true. No, actually, Chris, it doesn't mean not true. It means relatively true. And relatively true means having its appearance, taking its form, and right? So it doesn't mean it's not there. That's a nihilistic perspective that a thing is either there or not there. They are both not true, aren't they? It's not that it's there or not there. It's there and not there. It's appearing and disappearing. It's arising and passing. And it says you could not find a thing, could you then? That you could cling to say, and then it's just like this. And then it's fixed, and then it's permanent. And it says in the ultimate bodhicitta teachings, look for its beginning. Look for its beginning. Where does this begin? Where does it change? And what we will also notice is there it also ends, that there is only this in the relative world, right? And it says then try to do that with the mind and you can't do it. You can't find the beginning, the middle, or the end of that. That's the ultimate nature of bodhicitta. Yes, it's easier to see when I contract into the I. We can certainly see the cause of suffering there, can't we? Isn't it beautiful? And we can actually just know if I'm in contraction, if I'm in grip, if I'm in self-making. There's a variety of ways to experience this. Can anybody think of any other? If I'm in pain, it doesn't mean that pain's not a part of life. As Chris was questioning, wait a minute, does it mean that's not true? No, it means it's not inherently true. It's based on causes and conditions, and it can't, and those truths and conditions do not hold. Even that changes. And can we stay awake to that, to its nature? Yes, who we are is not true. These ideas about the self, Chris, that's right. That's a part of the dream, that we're only imagining a self. There is no constant, permanent, fixed self either. I get away from feeling sorry for myself. Yes, openness, patience, empathy, but it also seems to translate into practical aspects. That's right. volunteering, participating in things. That's exactly right, Annika. The truth is just the feeling, as a feeling, ultimately in its truth, it is actionable. In its truth, we then live that. And that was Gandhi's quote, wasn't it? Which is, this isn't just a philosophy, this isn't just a perspective, and this isn't just a feeling, that ultimately we are engaged in it. The fruit of it becomes an enlivened, actionable presence. Yeah, isn't it true? We're no longer just thinking about it. We're going, I'm gonna have to do something. Right when I was picking those tomatoes as my simple example yesterday evening, it was a beautiful evening. I was picking them. The only thing I could think is, oh, I can't wait. They were just beautiful to pick and smell. I can't wait to share these so that others can enjoy the bounty of this moment too. It just became actionable. There was nothing else to do. It was the aliveness of it continued and expanded. And see if you don't notice this to be true about all generosity, all kindness, and all love. See if you don't notice that it's never ending. It just leads to another moment of love. Love only leads to love, right? There's nothing else possible. And so why would we commit ourselves completely to this? You could only do it. Let me think of something, another way to breathe in the difficulty, so that I, as and again, not that little small I, but that gigantic big one, the eyes of all of us can be actionable. I see how my holding on to suffering is such a waste of time. Boy, don't you? Don't you just begin to go, what am I doing? What am I doing? Like, what? My husband was irritable yesterday. He's the guy who was in physical pain, by the way. Before I recognized he was in physical pain, I was just thinking he was a dope because he's being somewhat irritable, right? Yeah, after 25 years of practice, at least I can see that I think he's a dope. This is the progress. I'm going, what are you doing? We have a great dinner. Everything's going well. He's, and I catch it. And the beauty of the catching it was I went, why would I add to this suffering? Why would I add to this? Already hurting, already, right? And the Tonglen practice naturally came up for me, which is, I don't know if I can fix this. I don't even know if it's something that requires fixing. But what I can do is just acknowledge the truth of suffering and not further it. At the minimum, I could do that, not further it. Right? I got him a dish. I rarely get him a plate of food. He's almost always the cook these days. He's the first guy up there. And I thought, I can do that. That was an actionable item. And then I rubbed his back. That was an action, right? It just kept happening. As I just kept saying, wait, I refuse to make this worse for myself, truly, and for him. But it was even for me first. Like, I'm not going to add to this by going, make a nice dinner and nobody likes it and blah, blah, blah. I didn't want to play that. And in fact, it ended. There was a way to make it end. It was beautiful. Yes, a community garden is one of those beautiful, actionable items. Aren't we all a community garden? All of us right now, we're a part of that garden. You didn't even put anything in the ground yet, maybe. Right? But the root of you, the leaf of you, the flower of you is that garden. And everything that comes from it is then, right, beautiful, is holdable. And we begin right there in the breath, breathing that beautiful offering in. That's lovely. The feeling can feel so solid. Boy, don't we know it, Cindy? As it did for me this morning, yes. In doing this practice, it loosens and the impermanence of everything becomes clearer. That's the dharmas as dreams. We begin to realize nothing is fixed, solid, permanent, except as the mind makes it so. And then we get out of that, right? We unhook from that and get back into the open space of ultimate bodhicitta, remembering that from there, we can see the truth of all things, both in their coming and going, it says, not in its fixity. Wonderful. Thank you all for that. Let's go to the chapter for a minute. It's not very long, so it shouldn't take us too long to investigate it. Let me see if I can find that. I think I have to reshare this. Let me know if that worked. Here we go. Here it is. Okay, so you should be able to see some words. Anybody? Yeah. Okay, so we've already gone through those 4 reminders. I'm going to go back for 1 second. You heard me mention them several times. That's the preliminaries, remembering these 4 essential truths. And they are, life is precious. You heard me say it. Life is impermanent. They say here the reality of death. I don't want to make it that small. I want to make it bigger. It's not just death. It's everything is impermanent. The way we can get accrue karma is also true. The consequences of our thoughts, words, and deeds is a reality. It is not an idea. It's an absolute reality, and that we remember this, that there is the chain of cause and effect. And the 4th reminder, I said it wrong last week. I said interdependence, which is also true, but not very clear, that there is samsara, the inevitability of difficulties, of challenges in this world, as there is also a way to their end. But for us to cultivate some urgency for the practice, these 4 reminders are invited. It says here, the only thing I wanted to clear up was they talk about the only loving object, the only loving relationship is the teacher. He uses that word often. He doesn't really mean that. He means that everything's the teacher. Everything, everywhere we turn in love is an opportunity for wisdom, is an opportunity for love and compassion to grow. And so he says the teacher is an embodiment of that. It's important in that way, but ultimately it's bigger. Everything becomes our teacher. My husband's being irritable last night becomes the teacher. The beautiful smell of the tomatoes becomes the teacher, right? And that in a teaching, we have to be willing to take something in lovingly and not resist and not push it back. In order to see its true wisdom. And so I just wanted to clear that up because he mentions the teacher several times. Here again, he says, so the relationship with the teacher is tied in very closely with the development of Maitri or loving kindness. Yes, anything we open into becomes the development of Maitri and loving kindness. And everything we open to becomes the teacher, not just the person sitting up here saying words. Don't believe it. We see the difference between, as Renee was saying, the difference between suffering and the way to its end. And we begin to point more towards the wish for its end and the practices and the ways of being that contribute to that. We go, let's not waste any more time. I love that statement. Let's not waste our time in that grip, in that suffering. And so here's the point 2, some of the slogans in point 2. And ultimate bodhicitta, it says we're going to start, interestingly, there in the wide open space. We're not going to start in the relative. And if we just got it right there, we'd get to the ultimate. It says, let's remember the ultimate bodhicitta, the open, vast space, the ever available heart, awakened heart mind, because we're going to have to keep finding our way back there. It's going to be one of our sources of key refuge because we are going to confront difficulty. We are going to run into things like, we are going to make contact, like Cindy was saying, with things that are scary or unpleasant. And if we get locked up there, we are going to contribute to suffering for ourselves and others. So this is a very interesting approach. He says, I'm going to start at the other end where we remember that we are that vast, wide open, infinite space. And we're going to keep practicing opening back, opening up, no matter what we confront. And even says the worst suffering, we'll breathe it right in, transforming it and not getting stuck there also. We don't hold back. He uses words like that. We don't shut down. We don't take on an attitude of bankruptcy, insufficiency, and poverty. That's the small egoic self. We just keep opening up, resting in ultimate bodhicitta. And compassion, Chogyam says, is one of the essential paths to ultimate bodhicitta. And don't you know it to be true? When we feel compassion for another, there is no longer separation or disconnect. There is no more me over here, you over there. We have already looked at the big wide expanse we've just constructed. We're already in compassion, resting in the vast wide open space. By the way, compassion is a relative practice. It's a here and now, this moment, this life, this world practice as the way to ultimate bodhicitta. There's no way to stay in action. There's no way to stay in me versus you, us versus them, in the truth of compassion, which comes inherently, by the way, with clear seeing. Means you get the situation and you see clearly enough not to make it worse and to cause least harm. The ultimate bodhicitta slogans are purely confirming our way of recognizing experience, not mine, not me, not my story, but in fact a part of this human condition. The more we realize non-existence, I didn't like that word, that's why I underlined this, the more we can afford to be compassionate in giving. That buys into Chris's statement, doesn't it? Which is, it means nothing is real? No, that's not true. It means nothing is permanently fixed, is what that non-existence means. It doesn't mean not real, not there. We fall into that trap too often. It's a very dangerous perspective because then you go, well, so what about suffering? I don't have to do anything because it's not real. It's all a figment of my imagination. Why should I have to take a skillful, kind, loving, compassionate, generous action? It's not even there. It's very dangerous. No, it doesn't mean that it isn't there. It is there. The truth of pain and suffering is the first noble truth. So we don't go into nihilism or denial with that. But it also says it is not fixed. It is not permanent. It is not just you. And there is a way to work with everything, including that. When we realize that there is no ground, that we are ultimately free, non-aggressive, and open, we realize that we are actually non-existent. There's no fixed self either, is all he's meaning. Not real. I didn't want us to get trapped there. It says you have to hurt to really be a person who can cultivate compassion. Because if you don't know the source of suffering, if you don't know the truth of pain in this life, if you don't check in to the realities of aging, illness, and death, you can't truly feel for another. We can't stay in an isolated bubble, not feeling the truth of pain and suffering, and hope to cultivate this wide open view that they go together. You have to be open and willing, and that means willingly working with the truth of suffering. And not only willing, it says you're going to be the one breathing it in. You're so not going to turn away that the formal training says, I'm going to head right for it in a training way, so that on the spot, in the truth of the difficulty of real life, called my irritable husband with a backache, rather than go, really, it's a nice night. Do you need to do that? I can say, whoops, wait a minute. I choose. And it's a choice. I choose to take this in. I choose to understand it as a part of my own reality. And I choose to offer what I can, even if it's just understanding. Maybe a warm heating pad, maybe a back rub, but it begins with, but I know this too. Because without that, we can't hope for a skillful action as its result, can we? Whatever I do from that understanding, we ultimately understand is infinite, could be any number of beautiful things, and they all matter, right? Whether it's a back rub, just a feeling, offering of compassion, whether it's getting someone their food so they don't have to get up, right? It's all good news. It's all becomes good news from that very opening. And compassion is the only result of that opening. It is just an open wound, a very simple open wound. With such a wound, at least we are accessible. At least we are opening ourselves to the possibility of wisdom. The sense of the sore spot, like we're going to have to ache to, is embryonic compassion. We have some kind of space. Gap is not the word I would use. There's some kind of open space created in which we begin not to make distinctions, me and you, us and them, this and that, but open completely into the truth of our shared human vulnerability. And this is where compassion is born, right? We cannot protect our hearts and hope to cultivate these qualities. He says, we're going to know. It's going to feel like a wound, both an inner and an outer wound. The heart is going to ache. It's going to get, he says, sliced and bruised. I would just say ache, be in pain, hurt also. Ultimate bodhicitta, this is that two of the slogans I want us to be recollecting this week. Regard all dharmas as dreams is an expression of compassion and openness. No matter how brief, no matter where it's happening, that we open and embrace the truth of this arising moment without solidifying it, without going, it's always going to be this way. You're always going to be irritable. You're always going to make faces, right? Which is solidifying and causing suffering. As Renee said, a complete waste of time. We could go in the other direction. We could choose to open in love, in care, in compassion, and recognize that even that irritability, I'll use my example, is not anything fixed, solid, or permanent. It is nothing about the essence of who my beloved actually is. And it was arising. It was arising. There was an appearance. He says here, according to this slogan, everything should simply be regarded as not real. Again, very confusing, Chris. I'm not going to say that right. I'm going to say not fixed, permanent, stuck, or mine. That I would say. I think it is real and that it is arising in our relative world. So he goes way out there in a way that I think is dangerous for us, because I think it leads to a nihilistic perspective, which is I don't have to do anything because it's not real. According to the Yogacara, the phenomenal world is not to be regarded as solid, but as a dream. Now he's getting into what I'm trying to talk about. Perceptions, are just simply mental creations. We do not see the whole. We do not see all the facets and infinite causes and conditions of the arising, but we see that it is arising and can open rather than contract in the face of it, even in its temporary manifestation. Can we remember that it's simply, as Joko used to say, a figment of your solid self's imagination? a figment of your solid self's imagination. And I would laugh like crazy because I had no idea what she meant at the time. Like, I'm going to get this one day. And then we do. That's the good news also. Regarding dharmas' dreams does not mean that you become fuzzy and woolly or that everything has an edge of sleepiness. He says you don't go to sleep or not care about it, that this is not helpful, or that you just love everything. It's the false also, and I've seen myself and others make this mistake, right? Like, I just love everybody and I love everything, and you say it, but it's not true. The other wrong action is to completely deaden. That's that nothing's real, so who cares anyway? And that's not more authentic. But what's the authentic truth? How do I really make contact with these things that are difficult as well as these things that are beautiful? How do I use them all right now? In the interest of the end of suffering. Everything is shifty. I think he meant shifting, not shifty. So things have a dreamlike quality, but at the same time, the productions of your mind are quite vivid. It appears like all dreams appear, very real, doesn't it? A very factual or alive. I think we're already out of time, so I'm going to stop us here. I'm going to put a little check. We're going to stop at examine the nature of unborn awareness. We're not going to cover that one today. Let me get the screen. Thank you with me. I know we're over, so I want to make sure that we come to a close. I'm going to look at chat just to make sure. Okay, we're good there. And so we're going to rest once more for just a brief moment, back in that wide open space in which all things simply appear and disappear. It doesn't mean they're not real. It means they are brief appearances, and not to mistake any one of them as more true, more valid, more real than the other. All moments of contraction lead to suffering. All moments of openness, open space, clear seeing, open-heartedness will lead to the end of suffering. Regard everything else as a dream. May we dedicate the merits, the blessings, and the benefits of this practice today to the end of our suffering and the suffering of those we love. May it lead us all to awakening, to happiness and freedom. May we all be happy. May we all be safe. May we all have ease. May we all continue on this path to true abiding, unending happiness and freedom. And may our practice and the practice of this Sangha and all Sanghas throughout all time contribute. May it be so. So be it. So we have a few slogans: rest in the preliminaries, begin at the beginning. We've got those 4 reminders to call to mind to get us unknotted and unstuck. We've also got now the truth is treat all dharmas, all appearances as a dream. And look to go, wait a minute, that's not solid by itself. It's fed by this. this condition has to be present. You have to be tired and hungry to be that irritable. If you're that tired and that hungry to get that irritable, maybe what you need is rest and food to be unirritable. Then you see the way to its end, and it becomes simple and joyful, right? And then in the service of this, we see that it is these actions themselves that invite our greatest joy. So the tomato basket will be outside today at 816 Passiflora. Please bring a little bag if you'd like some, because I'm not sure. I'm working today. I won't be out there. I want you to be able to carry them. I'll look for something and enjoy them and enjoy this precious human life and your presence in it. Enjoy that. And remember, you are a contribution with every breath you take, with that potential. I really mean it, to change the world. And so blessings to each of you. Much love. And enjoy this day. Beautiful, beautiful day. I'll see you this Saturday. We'll continue these teachings and practices. I'll look forward to doing that with you. Be well, everyone.